This is a video recording of the Tekla Base Tools training material walkthrough. Together we will read at the material here on our IMPACT Wiki page, and we will try to do and follow the instructions and do them together so you have a nice visual of all the features explained in this training. So let's get started. In the first page you get some introduction. As I say here, that this is a step-by-step training in IMPACT Tekla Base Tools 17.1, where most features and workflows are explained in detail. When the elements designed in Tekla structures are transferred to the IMPACT database, you can use the IMPACT Production basic training material to continue your journey in learning the IMPACT software. This course does not require any prior knowledge of IMPACT, but it will be a plus to have some basic knowledge of Tekla structures and its features. In the learning material, there are many notes and important notes. This is very important, that are used to emphasize tips and tricks that will be useful during the training. This training material uses both text and pictures to explain all the functions and features of IMPACT Tekla Base Tools. The text is equally important to the pictures. As you understand, this is just to make sure that we do not only look at the pictures, but we also read the text that includes a lot of nice tips and tricks. You can see a table of contents. There are not a lot of steps here, so the video is not going to be a big video. And we click to get started. After you finish the training, you can go back to the table of contents and select a feature that might make sense to go and revisit. Information about the software. In this training, we are going to use three software: the IMPACT Tekla Base Tools, the IMPACT Project Manager, and the Tekla Structures. The Tekla Structures is the tool for detailing a model. You can see here, in my case, I have opened already my model in Tekla Structures. I'm going to use a small little warehouse dock that we are going to map. You can use any project that you would like. Then we have the Tekla Base Tools. This is the tools that transfer the elements from Tekla in IMPACT with the correct dimensions, weight, reinforcement, custom materials, drawings, and a lot more features, of course. That is so we can use IMPACT for better project and production planning. It is important to mention that the tool has a one-way connection to IMPACT, which means that it can only transfer information from Tekla to IMPACT and not the other way around. And the end result, we want to see it in the IMPACT Project Manager. This is where we get our model. This is the IMPACT Project Manager. We will explain the features in IMPACT Project Manager in a while. And every precast project is created in the Project Manager separately with its own properties and values. The Project Manager in this training is used to view the elements in IMPACT and ensure that they are transferred correctly in the IMPACT database, both visually and numerically. Now, when it comes to Tekla Base Tools, you might notice that there are two different Tekla Base Tools 17.1. This training is being done in version 17.1. You will see here we have Tekla Base Tools 17.1 and Tekla Base Tools 2024 17.1. That is because Tekla Base Tools 17.1 connects to Tekla Structures from 2021 to 2023. For Tekla Structures 2024, you get Tekla Base Tools 2024 17.1. So if you open a model that it is in Tekla Structures 2024, make sure you activate or you install Tekla Base Tools 2024 17.1 in order to do that. In my case, I'm using Tekla Structures 2023, and therefore I will use the Tekla Base Tools 17.1. Tekla Base Tools need Tekla Structures open in the background so they can launch. If there is no Tekla Structures open, then TBT, that's how we call Tekla Base Tools for a quick, and that's going to be used a lot in the training, will give you an error message and will close automatically. That's it. Remember that we always need to have one project of Tekla in the background open, and not multiple projects, and that will also allow us to get the connection to Tekla Base Tools and IMPACT. let's go and set up the environment. Let's go to the next step. This is the theory. I think it's a little bit over. The first step is to open the project in Tekla Structures. Here in the training, you will see that I will not provide you the Tekla Structures project that I am using due to the sensitivity, the sensitive information that are included in a Tekla project. Of course, if you are detailing in Tekla, you will need to have your own Tekla project. You can use that, and I will explain all the modules thoroughly in the following steps. The next step will be to launch the project manager. In PM, we'll need to create a new project. The steps for creating a new project and getting acquainted are the following. First, we need to activate the modules in PM. So basically, what this describes, this page here describes, is that when I come here, you will see that I do not have an option for creating a project. What I have to do is press on the arrow back here, go to the modules, activate the project manager license that, of course, a StruSoft representative has activated in your StruSoft installer, and then go back to the home and go back here, and you see new options are available. There is a note that for people who are interested here, you can see that there are some change notes, and the new software can also be found here in the project manager's interface. When you open it, you can see you can navigate directly to the tip of the week, the blog and news, the newest releases, and what are the newest features in every part of our software. And as you will understand, the Impact Project Manager is the base of Impact, is where we create each and every project, as you can see here. And I'm going to move to the next step. The next step is create a project in PM. You go and write new, and it is important to mention that the project numbers can only be 12 characters, and from special characters only the underscore can be used. In this case, usually when we create a project in Impact, we write the project number, or yes, then we have, for example, the description, and a lot more fields that you can fill out a good description of what the project is about. So let's go and do that. I will say new. I will press new here. And after a few seconds, you will see this place is orange. I will call it video TBT underscore TBT. With underscore TBT, that is the only field I have to fill out. When you are bringing elements from Tekla base tools, you do not need to think so much about the rest of the information here. Maybe if you transfer PXML and drawings, maybe you should look later on into the ERP MES connections. But for now, make sure that you write a project number that matches your Tekla project number, and remember that the moment you create and you say OK, this project number is not editable anymore. Everything else can be edited, but not this project number, which means that if you made a mistake, you will need to create a new project with the correct project number again. Yes, let's continue. Now there is a little explanation about the project manager PM layout and how the different things are being shown around. So I will go into the software and show you a little bit of what are the three features here. We have also some movable windows, and of course how you can create your own personal layout. You can save both a local and a common layout that anybody in the company can use, and if you close PM, it should remember the last layout you used when opening it up again. Let's see here. So I'll go to home, and you will see here that this is my model view, this is my element properties, and this is my project browser. Usually what I'm trying to do is pick up from the blue line my different windows and move them somewhere. If I move it here, then it will go back. If I go down here, then it will put it down here. All the tabs here are movable, but the most important tab and the tab that we're going to look into in this training is the one called the model view. Yes. Regarding the layouts, as I showed in the model, you go here into view, and then you go to the layouts, and you can save this window layout. You can call it Thomas and press save. As described in the material, if I close the project manager now and I open it again, then this layout will automatically be there. If it's not there, then you go to your view, layouts, Thomas, apply, and then the new layout is applied. Simple as that. In the View tab, there are a few settings that are proposed to be done to optimize performance. Those settings include setting anti-aliasing to off and detail to medium. In our case, this is not going to be very important, but you can say anti-aliasing to off and detail to medium. That will make it. Yes, of course, project manager needs to be started for this setting to take effect, which of course we will not have to do right now. Perfect. Buildings and floors. Ideally, we would like to create the project environment from Tekla to match the project environment in PM. For example, if we have one building and 10 floors in our Tekla project, then we should be able to do that in Project Manager. Any new project in PM consists of one building and one floor. If you want to create a new floor, you need to right-click on Building 1, select Floors, add new floors and give them a name. Press OK. The floors are created in the project browser. Important note, the dimensions of the floors do not play an important role for elements that are coming in from Tekla. The X and Y and Z placement of the elements will automatically be transferred from the Tekla model. If you want to match the elevations from Tekla to IMPACT, then this is a place that you can adjust those. What all these things mean? Let's take it one step at a time. So basically, here I have a model. When you have a building or a residential or a commercial building, it doesn't really matter. It might have separate floors, maybe separate construction phases. All these things can be mapped directly from Tekla into IMPACT. But in order for us to do that, we will need to create the floors in the project manager or the construction phases, if that makes any sense. But in this training, we will discuss about how to make the floors. When we open the project browser, the model, the building, and the floor. Yes, it's one building and one floor automatically, and that is the name. The best way, if we want to change the building name or the floor names and create our own, this is the best way to do it from the beginning, because the moment we bring elements assigned under a floor, then it will be impossible to change the name. So how can we add floors and change the name? We can right click here, we can go to floors, right click on building 1, and then continue and say new, or press this plus button up here. The default values, you can read here about the floor elevation, the topping concrete, the story height. The default values are corresponding to our IMPACT design software. When the elements are coming from Tekla, the X, Y, Z, the dimension of this element, will also be placed on the X, Y, Z in the model view of the IMPACT project manager. So that means that the floors are only for separating the elements. For those are assigned to the first floor, those are assigned to the second floor, those are assigned to the third floor. The dimensions here do not play any role of what they are. However, if you want to be right, you can adjust the dimensions of the elevations and the floor levels according to your Tekla project. If you press OK, you will quickly see that there will be a building and floors created in the project browser. Building 1, floor 1, 2, 3, and 4. Simple as that. If we want to create multiple buildings, then we need to right-click on the model and select buildings and floors. That's a new thing. We can now duplicate the first floor of the building and then change the name to building 2. We can also add multiple floors under building number 2. In our case, we do not want to have multiple buildings, and therefore we can press cancel instead of OK. Let's go and try that. I go to the model, right click, buildings and floors. I select the first floor, duplicate, double click here, building floor 2, and now I can also press plus, 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 and you see that I have building 2 and selection. If I press OK, there will be a new building created here. Let us do that also, so we can get some more information. Building clue and all the floors underneath. However, as described in the training, we will not need that. So what we are going to do is building and floors. Select those 4 together, right click, delete, press OK. And now building 2 is going to be taken away. Perfect. So back to the training. Now that we have a quick understanding of the different layouts from the project manager, we can create floors and buildings. It is time to transfer the elements from Tekla to the IMPACT database. Let's go to the project mapping. Project mapping. While the Tekla structure is open, please find Tekla base tools from your Windows toolbar and press it to open. Remember that you are using Tekla structures 20,000 or above. Please find the corresponding Tekla base tools 2024, 2025, 2026, 17.1 and press it to open. IMPACT Tekla base tools 17.1. So I'm writing here Tekla base tools and I'm getting IMPACT Tekla base tools 17.1. I'm going to open it. The software will prompt the following question. You just need to press OK. The question is that your current Tekla Structures project is not attached to an IMPACT project. Please select an IMPACT project. You see here, the message is exactly the same as the one in the picture. I'll press OK. And then it says that we need to select the project that we just created in PM. And as I say here, it should be the one selected automatically as the last open project. We do that, we press OK. Now the Tekla base tool software is open and should look like in the following picture. Yes. Important note, if you open your Tekla model folder, then you might notice that a new file called IMPACT has been created. You should never delete, edit or remove this file, as it represents the live connection between IMPACT and Tekla. If you delete the file, all the mapping process in Tekla base tools will be lost, but not the saved elements in the database, if you reach the point to have saved the elements. So basically, if I go to my Tekla structures, open the model folder, you will see now that I have created this file. This file consists of logs and sync model. This basically is the connection and what we see here in the Tekla base tools, which is an intermediate stage between Tekla and the IMPACT database. Therefore, if we delete that, then the connection will be lost and we will need to map the project again from scratch. Yes, so please don't do that, or if you do it, know why you are doing it, because something is really wrong and then you need to map the project in a new project. Perfect. TBT Layout. All right, you can see the picture here. Maybe you can see the picture also here of the TBT layout. And in this page, I'm explaining the different windows and the different functions of IMPACT. So let's start with number 1. Number 1 is the boxes up here. You can see it says linking, mapping, saving, updating, and other. Number 1 are the key functions for transferring the elements to IMPACT. The 3 first represent the procedure that we need to follow in order to bring the elements to the IMPACT database. The steps basically are linking, mapping, and saving. We will see that in the following chapter. First linking the elements into Tekla base tools, then mapping the elements to IMPACT definitions, and finally saving the elements into the IMPACT database. The update button can be used for elements that are already saved in IMPACT and have been submitted to changes. The Settings button opens up the Settings window, which will be explained in a later chapter. So, those three are for bringing the elements in. Updating is when we have elements, when we have saved the elements, when we then will update the sync status and what if they have been submitted, and we will figure out if the elements have been submitted to changes or not. Here you can see your version, and here is the settings, which we'll also go thoroughly through in the following chapter. On the left side, number 2, we have the project browser. The project browser represents the buildings and floors that we created in the project manager, and that's why it is important to have created that beforehand. If you decide to do that afterwards, that's also possible. You just need to remember that whenever you make a change in the project manager and you want it to be applied here, remember to restart your Tekla base tools. That's an important note. Number 3 is the properties. For now, there is nothing there, but here is where you can find the Tekla and the impact properties of an element. So when we bring an element from Tekla, it will have 2 lines. We will see that also later, and represents the properties we transferred from Tekla into IMPACT. Most of the times are matching, sometimes they are different, and we will explain why. Element properties, main element grid. This is where all the elements are going to be filled. This is where we can filter elements out according to the sync status, the building, the floors, the names, the profiles, and everything. And then this is where we can handle our elements. This is the message log. This will give you updates whenever you update or save the elements. If there is any errors, if some elements have not been saved properly. And last but not least, this is the project info. This is important because here you can see the Tekla project name and the Tekla project name file, and that's the DB1 file, the connection to the geometry file. That is because sometimes people forget and get the Tekla projects, a lot of Tekla projects, and then they open Tekla base tools, they make connection, and it might be that you do not get the right connection to the right model that you want. And that's why we always say have one Tekla project name open at all. If you want 2 different Tekla project names to be added on the same impact model, this is possible. You just need to map first the one, close it, and then open the other, map it to the same Tekla project, to the same impact project, and then continue the process there. Perfect. TBT Settings overview. This is important. So, before we begin with the procedure of importing the elements in IMPACT, we will quickly go through some of the main settings in TBT. In the settings, we will use the term UDA, which means user-defined attribute in Tekla. This is the way of adding custom information properties of an element in the Tekla model, and therefore we can use those UDAs in order to transfer the information directly into IMPACT. A lot of people know that when I select an element here, it has some custom properties that we can see here. They called user-defined attributes. Those attributes, they can vary from giving a specific weight number to an extra name of custom material, a lot of things. In IMPACT, we have created our own setting tab that we can calculate a lot of different things. So the first tab that opens up is the General tab. The following window will pop out. As you see, this is the window that has popped out. The General tab, as you can see above, I'll keep it here on the side so you can see it. As you can see above, the General settings are the first window that comes up. For a beginner, the following general settings are proposed. It has been proven that they work properly 95% of the time. So the profile source is number in prefix plus main profile. The other options are those. You can of course use a UDA and then use the profile UDA from Tekla, name here, and then the profile source will be taken. What is the profile source? The profile source is the name, the Tekla name, the Tekla profile name that a Tekla detailer has given to an assembly. The conversion log is not explained in the training, but it has to do with fine plant elements that we plan in IMPACT, not necessary for now. Mass and dimensions are very, very important. The three main properties is the dimensions, length, width, height, the volume, and the mass. In our case, for length, width, height, we use parts only. There is a mistake here. It should always be parts only. And the volume should be sum of assembly. And the mass should be sum of assembly. By doing this, dimensions, parts only, sum of assembly, we are ensuring that Tekla Base Tools does not do any calculations and finding the weight itself or the volume. Because as you can see, some of the options here are, for example, sum of parts. Then Tekla Base Tools will take all the parts inside the assembly, make a calculation and addition, and see that this is the volume. That volume, then the sum of the assembly volume that can be found in a Tekla assembly, that can vary. And that's why we want the sum of assembly, because then basically what we take is, if you inquire this assembly, then the volume will be this, and the length, width, height, of course, will be that, and the weight will be the corresponding weight of the assembly, which is the cast unit weight here, 4.6 tons. Okay, very important to understand that. Yes, let's continue here. Geometrical representation, the last one, should be to OBJ. The field has two options, the OBJ and impact. We select OBJ because we want to ensure that the picture of an element from the Tekla model will be the same in the Impact Project Manager model view. It is a visual feature that will help you identify the correct elements and give you 99% correct 3D visuals of your Tekla model in Impact. Basically, if we use OBJ, this view here will be the same as the one that you have from Tekla in the Impact model view. If you use Impact, then the profile from Tekla will be translated to the profile from Impact, and the view might be a box of concrete, which of course is not, it will not be very nice for you to plan later on. That's why 99% of the times we use the OBJ feature here. Let's continue. Rest of the settings, they are not relevant for this training. During this exercise and after your first mapping, feel free to play around with some of those and activate, for example, taking the Tekla grid, exporting the Tekla grid. However, always keep the following to unmarked, as they have been developed for a specific customer and are not useful for general users. So please keep these two here empty. That would be very important. And of course, we move on to the next one, the one next to it, which is the custom materials. The custom material, in the next tab regarding customer, you can activate the first box. We activate this box, ensures that all the embedded items will be transferred along in Impact. The embedded items are designed as subparts in Tekla, and they will be transferred in Impact as custom materials. Perfect. The naming source is the object. We have the option to use the UDA, as I show here, that you can get a name, a description, and a reference. That will be very important later on in a process when you have a mature workflow in Tekla Base Tools. The name of SIM transferred from Tekla to Impact is very important. As I say here, one of the most difficult tasks is to keep consistent name of your SIM and reinforcement in your Tekla model, especially when you have many different Tekla consultants providing you with different models. Every Tekla consultant draw it their own way, and that is very important to know. If you use the option UDA, then you can ensure that the name, description, and reference of your SIM will be transferred properly. This is a step you need to discuss further with your Tekla detailers. Of course, this is not something we can solve today as a first part of this training, but it is nice to know that it is an option. For the sake of this training, keep the name source to object and the rest of the fields unmarked. When we go to reinforcement, these are the proposed reinforcement setup. You can see we bring in stirrup, strand, mesh. These are the main reinforcement that we do. Of course, every model here every reinforcement is defined by the country codes, which makes it a little bit easier. So it's not like custom materials that we need to ensure the name is correct. The name is correct because the shape code or the bar mark and the position is correct because you are drawing according to your country codes. Those reinforcement custom materials will be attached to the main assembly and can be shown in IMPACT through the reports, through the report tool. It's not covered in this training, but if you follow the production training, you will be able to use the report tool and also export and open the corresponding reports that includes custom materials and reinforcement. This is just a small little detail. Drawings, in this case, we are not going to transfer any drawings, but as explained here we will not transfer any drawings, as there are many unique factors from Tekla that define a successful transfer, but it is worth mentioning as an option. We transfer only PDF. That is the most important thing you need to remember. All the PDFs need to be placed in a folder name inside your Tekla folder. That is plot files, for example, where I have my PDFs here, right? And then you need to configure the name convention. The name convention can be derived by element mark and many other options like the project number, the drawing type, the revision, or anything else. So when you configure those two things and you put all of your PDFs inside this folder, then you can keep this transfer open and the drawings will be transferred. For the sake of this example, we are not going to use the transfer drawings. The last part of the settings that we're going to see now, we have to activate this UDA mapping under the other info. Make sure you activate the UDA mapping box as shown below. This is the tab that will be very important in the future, model mapping in IMPACT, and it is very important because as I explain now, for now we leave it empty, but as I explain now, you will see here that there are many impact properties that also shown here that will help you a lot for your production planning. So when you have UDAs that, for example, define the product, the group, the total length, the total width, and the total height, a lot of you using bars outside of the element, and you want to plan with your total length or your total width or your total height, then that will be visible in IMPACT also. The same for plan dates that can be filled out for your production planning that you sometimes fill in Tekla. And of course, a lot of notes and a lot of information such as windows, providers and stuff that you consider very important to be transferred to IMPACT for your production planning. And that's where you do it. You can create as many boxes as you want and map different UDAs to different impact properties. That will be very, very useful in the years to come or in your journey here. But of course, how do you call it? It will be a step that you need to take later on. For now, activate the UDA mapping. The rest of the settings, state to splints, advanced transport, sandwich wall volume, and file transfer. This is not something we will explain now. Most of them are made for specific customers. Some of them might be useful for your company also. If you want to discuss those further, make sure to give a call to your StruSoft representative, and then they will help you and discuss further and do a proper advanced training in Tekla-based tools and explain all those features. Press save, and we can move on to the actual procedure of transferring the elements from Tekla and IMPACT. Let's press save. Now we have the settings, now we have Tekla-based tools, and now we go to the element transfer procedure. This is my favorite part, of course, because now we're going to use the software. As already mentioned in the previous subchapter, the procedure for transferring the elements from Tekla into IMPACT is separated into 3 steps: linking, mapping, saving. It cannot be more clear. They are the 3 first options up here. Linking. Select the elements that you want to transfer as assemblies in your Tekla model. In my case, I have only 59 precast elements, my Tekla, and therefore I will select my whole project at once. In your case, you will decide if you want to do the procedure per floor, construction phase, or bring all the elements in at once. Super. So I will go into my Tekla project, open it up, make sure that I select them as assemblies. It doesn't really play an important role, but sometimes it does. So make sure you have the assemblies, just to make sure, just to cover ourselves, we select them like that. Then we go back here, back on TBT, and press the command linking. It might take a few seconds to analyze the data, but a new window will pop up with all the assemblies that you have selected in your Tekla model. Let's go and press, finally, a command in Tekla Base Tools, linking. Retrieving impact model data, please wait. It might take a second. Analyze the Tekla selection. And now the elements are here. You can review the elements. You can see we have the object position number, which is basically the Tekla name. We have the object name, which is a backcall. We have the QED, which is very, very important to transfer. And that will make the unique connection. And you can see here we have the impact, the building, the floor, and the face. Every element is under one category because, of course, elements are categorized in Tekla. Important note, if you right-click in one of the elements in the top window that pops up, there will be three options for erasing elements from the window, as shown in the picture below. Remove selected items plus the groups, remove all but selected items and their groups. Their groups mean the element under the same category type, as we just explained. Either we keep all but selected items and their groups or erase all that belong. Try to use all three commands on a few elements and see how the software responds. Doesn't matter which element, as we will get them back in the next step. Let's go and try these commands. So I will take this, the back wall, I right click, say remove selected, pretty obvious that it removes only one element. And now I have removed selected and the group. I'll do it again, remove all selected plus the groups. All the biscuits I'm expecting to go away. Perfect. In the front walls, I will say remove all but selected items and groups. Expect only the front walls to be here. Now I made a mistake. I press wrong button as it says here. So what should I do? Press retake Tekla selection and all the elements that are still selected as assemblies in your Tekla model will show up in the window. This is just in case you made a mistake while erasing things from the list that are not precast elements. So, retake Tekla selection. I hope all of my elements will show back up again. Remember, keep the elements selected while you are doing the linking step. On the left side of the screen, we can assign the selected elements to a specific building, floor, or construction phase. In our case, we will use building, floor, and phase 1 just to make it an easy start example. There is a possibility to transfer the elements onto the correct floor later on, either from the Tekla Base Tools grid or the actual model in PM. Yes, this is something that we will see later in the training. On the left side of the screen, you can assign selected elements to floors here, and then they will just get all of them floor 2. In our case, we just want to put them on floor 1 and leave it like that. The last step is press link, and the elements must be visible in the Tekla Base Tools grid. This is important. Important note, it is highly. You will see here the elements are in the grid. When I select an element, it has Tekla properties and the impact properties are 0. We will see why is that. Because the elements now are not saved in impact, they are just transferred into the intermediate space called Tekla Base Tools. So this is the first part, and this is the linking. It is highly recommended that your Tekla consultant create a filter in Tekla that will only show the precast elements on the Tekla model view. In that way, you ensure that all the assemblies that you are selecting for, linking them to impact, are the precast assemblies and not other items that are not relevant to your precast project. However, this is not a must, just a nice tip. Yes, of course, a lot of times we have experienced that the Tekla project has a lot of assemblies or sub-assemblies or things that they are not precast elements. It is a good idea to create a nice filter here that you can filter out quickly your precast elements. So when you select the whole model, you select only the precast elements. Yes. The following step is the mapping. Mapping is the procedure of matching a Tekla element type to an impact element type. If an element in Tekla is designed as a slab, for example, then it can only be mapped as a slab definition in impact, or as a link definition. Important note, every Tekla definition can always be marked as a link definition in impact, and that ensures that the transfer procedure will always work. In reality, when you are using your own database, not the trial database from StruSoft, we can create most of the different definition types that you use in your Tekla standard. If a Tekla definition cannot be represented in impact, like a stair for example, then it should always be mapped as a linked impact definition with a corresponding name to represent the stair. Use the command mapping, then the following window will pop up. Then we have three windows, sub window 1, 2, and 3. Let's do the procedure mapping. You will see we have the three windows, project mapping, impact definitions, and common mapping. Let's explain those one by one. Let's see here if I can also put this next to you. So sub window 1 has all the Tekla definitions that represent the elements and have already linked from the Tekla model. This is the window where we match the Tekla definition with the impact ones. You see here profile name comes from Tekla, the mapping is from impact. So window number 2 has all the impact definition that exists in your standard. If you do not have many different definitions, then StruSoft can create them for you, as explained before, or you can create them yourself, always with the help of your impact support person. So here is a database of all the impact definitions. You see here, impact definitions have also like their beams, they can be columns, they can be slabs, they can be pre-stressed slabs, they can be a lot of different information, like hollow core, linked, and stuff like that. What we said in the beginning is that if I have a wall here, I cannot take this wall and go and map it to a definition that is a hollow core or a slab. I cannot take a slab here and map it to a definition that it is a wall. However, when I have a link definition, that ensures to me that it will always work the mapping. So when I select a link definition, I can have a link definition for slabs, a link definition for stairs, a link definition for walls, a link definition for columns. So when I assign that mapping with a link definition, that will always ensure to me that it will work. The mapping, the saving process will be without any errors. But of course, we want you to have your definitions in impact also, and that's something that you will create with time and after the first couple of mappings. Yes, and that's basically what it says. The sub window 3, let's look at that, is the common mapping. After a mapping in a project is successful, we can move all the existing mapping definitions from sub window 2, so we can take those and move them to the common. Why that? That means that in the future, whenever the software identifies a common mapped Tekla definition, the impact mapping will be filled out automatically. Practically, the more projects elements you are transferring from Tekla and the more definitions you define in the common folder, the easier it will be for you in the future to do the impact mapping. In theory, we want to completely skip the mapping step for all your future projects. We just need consistency in the naming of your Tekla profile names, maybe through a UDA, and that takes you back to the settings where I used numbering prefix plus profile name, and that gives me these definitions here. If I use the UDA, maybe I will get another result, a more consistent result that it is not dependent on the dimensions of the elements. And then by doing the mapping, then I can have the mapping always ready in the definition. Yes, so now the theoretical part is over and we need the corresponding definition from window 2. How do we do that? We select the definitions here and we add the link. Now you will have a lot of different profiles here in your own project. It will be difficult for you to know what to do. So in theory, my biggest proposal for you will be to, of course, try and map your elements as link definitions. I usually use this ST-DOS definition. It's just a general definition I have. And for walls here, I say that I'm going to map them as WP20. So you select basically the elements, you go and you find the solid wall, you say assign selected. And if you're happy with that, if that works for you later on, then you can assign them to common. Not now, not right now, but if everything works fine in your project and you're happy with that, then you can come into the mapping again and save it to put it into the common. Make sure you read and understand the important note above. Correct mapping is 90% of the whole procedure. Correct mapping is extremely important. So please read this important note here. That makes a lot of sense that you can always map an element in a Tekla in a link definition. Make sure that it will work. Press save. If you do not have a profile here, even though you know it's a wall and the profile is missing, then it should always be a link definition. These are just some quick tips and tricks. We say save. Back to the training. You will see here in our Tekla grid, in our Tekla base tools grid, I'm sorry, you will see here that we have a mapping and the type. See here the type is solid wall and the mapping. This is also what shows here. The biggest part of the process is finished. If you do those 2 steps correctly, which is very difficult to make them not correctly, then the last part is to do the saving. Let's read about the saving. Press Save All Elements. The following progress bar will pop up, notify you of the progress of the saving function. You need to wait until the bar is completely gone away. Depending on the size of your project, you might want to take a coffee break during the saving step. The more complex geometries, such as sandwich walls with brick patterns, will take more time saving than a solid hollow core slab. In the long window below, you should have the following message that ensures the procedure worked as it should. Let's do it and make sure that we get the correct information. Save all. You can also have the option to right click, save selected. Important to notice here, the sync status, new updated, press save all. And we do the converting. And this is a live bar, saving the elements. You see here, this is the bar. And yes, let them be saved. If you have, it says here, if we have any error messages, then we should not worry that much. Most likely some of your mapping is wrong and you will need to do the second step again for those elements. However, I'm sure that a few of the elements would have already been saved correctly. And how we can identify that? We can identify that from the sync status. The sync status, when those saved and they are saved correctly, they will be up to date. If some of the elements are not saved correctly, then they will still be new / updated. Then we know that those elements might have an incorrect mapping, the dimensions from Tekla are too small, or something is wrong in those assemblies. Yes, you see here in live how much time it takes to save 59 elements with the corresponding custom materials and reinforcement, of course. We are almost there. The elements have been saved in the IMPACT database. What is happening now is transferring the data. And the data in our case is the embedded items and the reinforcement, which takes, of course, a lot of time to understand and recognize. So the main process, transferring the elements, is completed. We are waiting for the data also for every element to be saved in the database. Not only the dimensions, but also the subdata. And that's why it takes this time. Successfully saved 59 items of totally 59, successfully converted 59 items. This is the same thing we get here. Perfect, that's a perfect project. As I said here, you will see the sync status, they are all up to date. You can see also here, if you press the filter, that we have only up to date elements. And if I select on one element here, you will see that Tekla and IMPACT have the same dimensions here. Now the IMPACT dimensions has been filled, and that means that the elements are saved in the IMPACT database. Now go back to the IMPACT project manager, reload the model. Your elements in VM should look like the same in your Tekla model. Let's go do that. Reload this up here. Reload the model. If the model is not aligned after loading the data, then you can press this 4-arrow button to align the model with your with the model view. But let us see. Here I will press this zoom fit, and the model is visible in the project manager. Now every element has its own properties, as you will see, like that, and everything is transferred from Tekla the proper way. Yes, simple as that. Let's continue. You can now use our great IMPACT project and production planning tool to ensure a quality and efficiency workflow in your company. In theory, the process is finished here, but of course there are some nice functions and good things to know, and therefore we will try and explain a little bit the sync model in the good functions, change element location as I promised, assign the element mark manually, and of course reset the Tekla connection if that's what you want to do, which is basically the same as we did with deleting the folder. So the elements in TBT are always connected through the Tekla GUID in the IMPACT database, which means that once they are in IMPACT, they can also be updated for possible changes. Changes in the model can vary from drawing revisions to finalizing the element marks and dimensions on the Tekla model. After having performed changes to your Tekla model, or maybe having changed things in IMPACT as well, it's highly recommended that you press the command update all in TBT. That will lead to changes in the sync status. All the possible sync statuses are explained in the following table. Up to date, the item is saved, and up to date, we don't need to do anything. New updated, the item has either newly linked, relinked, or the object was updated with new information, completely new information. Modified in IMPACT, TBT detected changes in IMPACT. Modified in Tekla, TBT has detected changes in the Tekla model. Modified in both, maybe the dimensions you've changed in Tekla, but you also changed the floors in IMPACT, so they'll be modified in both. Deleted in IMPACT, TBT could not find or contacting the IMPACT item, which means that somebody has deleted the element from the model view in the project manager. Deleted in Tekla, somebody has deleted this GUID. Deleted in both, and of course unknown, the object is completely unknown, which is not a good sign, the unknown. The process of ensuring that the elements are always having the latest updates from the Tekla model is the following. Use update all command. Now I'm going to just show you here. I'm not a Tekla expert, which makes things a little bit more difficult. What I'm going to do is expand the element a little bit here, just one element, just to make sure that there are some changes detected. And then I will follow the process. Update all, filter out sync, modified in Tekla, select the modified elements, right click and press save selected. Make sure to clear the filter and ensure that all the elements have the status up to date. Let's do the procedure. Update all. Then it will scan very, very quickly all the elements in the history. We cannot really find the element here, so what we're going to do is find it here. There is one element modified in Tekla, or there is elements modified in Tekla. It's only one. Right click, save selected. you can also use this inspect, save the selected item, save selected. And now that should be up to date. If it's up to date, then that means we should clear the filter so we get all the elements back in our information. So now all the elements are up to date. And of course, needless to say that if I go to the model view, press update, then you will see that I have also expanded this this concrete for this L wall. Back to the training, important note, when deleting an element in Tekla structures, it is important to understand that you will lose connection to that specific element in Impact. Practically, when you see the status deleted in Tekla, you need to select the element, right click and press the command remove selected. In order to transfer the replacement of that element in Impact, then you will need to follow the procedure from start, linking, mapping and saving. What does that theoretically means? That if you delete an element completely and you just replace it with another element, that is not going to be good. Then you need to go link, map, save. If you just take this and modified it completely, then it doesn't matter even if you make it a smaller element change, but as long as the GUID of the assembly is the same, then you only have to press update. If you change the GUID, then you need to link, map, save the element directly again from scratch. As I promised, now we can change the element location. As described under the step linking, it is possible to change the element location placement on the model. You can assign different building floors and construction phases after the first saving. However, you can also do that in the Impact Project Manager. Here we will explore both options. Change element location TBT. Select the elements that you want to modify on the TBT grid and then right-click. Model, set position. Navigate to model and set position. Assign the elements to the corresponding floor that you would like. Press OK. Now the elements have 6 status to new updated. As you see here, they have completely new information in the Tekla base tools, and that makes them to be new updated. Not modified because they are either modified in Tekla or they are modified in Impact. They are just modified in Tekla base tools, and that makes them new updated. Select them and then filter out the sync status filter and then right click and then save selected. After the progress bar is finished in TBT, you press reload. In PM, your changes will be applied in the Impact database. You can confirm the changes in the project browser where you can find the elements under the floors you selected. So let's do the process. I will select the elements that I want to change. I'll take those front walls here, right click. I will say model, set position, assign them to floor number 2, press OK. Again, they disappeared here because the up-to-date status is the one coming first. So I will find them, I'll say new updated, select them, right click, save selected. Wait for the procedure to finish. When the procedure is finished, I can go back to the project manager. You will see here all the elements are under floor 1. In my case, I'll press update. Remember to clear the filter here. See. And now we have floors wall under the second floor. which basically, what does that mean? Why do we want to assign different floors here? Because when all of them are under the same floor, or when all of them are linked elements, then it's difficult to filter them out. In Project Manager, it is very easy to double click on the floor and then get the floor 2. If you double click on floor 1, then you get the rest of the elements in floor 1, floor 2. So that is the procedure, and that's how you assign things to different floors. Here it says that that there was an error. I'm not really sure what the error is. Sometimes you cannot really understand the error, but that thing can happen. You should not get disappointed or disapproved. Everything seems to be up to date. Everything seems to be fine, which in our case, we should not think about it way too much. Yes. The next part is doing this change element location in PM. Open the model view in PM, select the filter elements and filter the elements of the second floor. In our case, press the command right click and press the command location object. Assign the elements to the corresponding building floor you want. Press OK. Reload the model. Back in TBT, press command update all. Filter out the elements with the status modified in impact. Right click and then press save selected. Then all the changes are now applied both in Tekla base tools and in the impact database. So let's do that. I'll select floor 2, select the elements of floor 2, right click, location object. I will assign them back to floor 1, press OK. And now if I want to really make this shown here in the project browser also, I just need to press update. So the changes are applied. So there is no elements under floor 2 now. And in order to make that happen, I will press update all, scan for any updates, update command executed successfully. You see here the elements are modified in impact. I will select them or maybe filter them out again to make sure that I have all the elements modified in impact. Right click, save selected, and that ends the procedure of having those information. In our case, sometimes when it's modified in impact, you don't really have to save them again because see here the properties are updated. You see now the elements were saved properly with no errors. Everything is good. Clear filter, remember, so you get all the elements back. That is the procedure of editing things. Assign element mark manually. In some cases, a detailer might like to give another name to impact to an element and not the Tekla name already given. Right click on a selected element or a few elements at the same time and use the command assign mark. Fill out the following window with a prefix and a numbering sequence. If you have selected multiple, the numbering sequence will decide the name of the elements. Press assign. For the changes to be applied in the impact model, you will need to resave the elements. Select the elements, right click on them, and then save selected. Let's go to this procedure. I will take those walls here. I will take those lintel walls. I will right click, element mark, sign mark, and I will call them LN, and then the numbering should be 01. Now we get LN 01, 02, 03, 04. If I press assign, let me find them again. Yes, these are, I think these were some of the elements. These were the ones. You see here that the element mark mode is set to manual LN01 and all the others are automatic. Automatic means this name will be this name automatically. The manual means that I have manually selected those lintels to get those names. Now, what I have to do, right click, save selected. Oh, not inspect, sorry. Save selected. And the new name will be converted in impact also. That's basically it. Nothing too difficult, as we always did. The last part is the reset Tekla connection. If you decide you want to map your Tekla project to an impact project, then and do the job completely from scratch, then you can press reset button. So for example, if now we are finished with the training and you want to do it again from scratch and you want to create a new project, then you can just, instead of finding the Tekla model folder and open Tekla model folder and go here and delete or remove the impact file, which will do the same, you can actually come here in the Tekla base tools and go tools, base tools, and press reset. If we do that, I can show you also the training is finished. We can press reset. This will delete the impact data and reset the local Tekla bases. Do you really want to reset the project? Yes. What happens is that this project we will be asked. However, the data of the project is now in impact and it will always be in impact unless you delete the elements from the database. Those elements are not affected. There is not a live connection anymore between this project and the Tekla project. That's what Tekla base tools does. So now it opens up again and it asks you if you want to map it in another project. In my case, I'm not going to map it again because, of course, this is not what I want to do. The main part of the training is now finished and you will be asked to try the whole procedure again by following small exercise. Feel free to map as many projects as you want and get better acquainted with IMPACT Tekla base tools. And of course, this is through your trial period. The summary exercise, it is very easy. It takes you step by step on how to do the procedure. Open a new Tekla model, create a new project in PM that matches the project number from Tekla, create new floors, buildings if necessary to match Tekla model properties, open Tekla base tools, the correct version matching your TS, and map the project. Your settings are the same as before. You can revisit the settings and stuff like that, perform the linking, mapping, and saving procedure to transfer the elements to impact, make some updates in the Tekla model, and then transfer the changes to impact with the update function. When you do that a couple of times, you will be ready to use Tekla base tools. The next steps, of course, will be to create your definitions, make sure you have your custom materials, your embedded items proper, and the rest will follow. Thank you for following this training. You are now an expert in Tekla base tools, and I'm pretty sure you need to continue your training into the impact production that, of course, can be found right here. Thank you.